Last week I told you that the very easiest thing you can do with a whole chicken is to just roast it. Well, today I'm going to show you how. You might notice that some of the footage in this video is identical to last week's. Well, that's because the first step is exactly the same and I'm too lazy to reshoot. Besides, why mess with perfection? The only thing you maybe want to do differently is to put the neck in the fridge because you're not going to cook it for quite a while. But everything else is the same.
Never rinse or wash a chicken, but you do need to unwrap it.
That's best done in the carafe or the crock or whatever you call it, straight in the sink. Make sure you have a towel handy, better still if it has an Eat Is Love logo. Make sure you have a container ready and open, just waiting for you. And make sure you've got your knife handy, turn on the sink while your hands are still clean. Now put a little cut in that wrapper and take the wrapper all the way off the chicken. Don't cut off your finger, whatever you do. But if you do, it's not my fault. It's your fault because you're in charge. It's your kitchen. All right, let's get that wrapper all the way off because, partially wrapped chicken is just, well, it's stupid. Make sure to rinse the wrapper off because we don't want that stinking up the trash can. Now, reach inside the cavity of the bird. You're going to find another plastic bag that has the giblets and neck. This is no time to be shy. Just get right in there. The biggest piece is the neck. Pull that out and just put it in the carafe or the crock or whatever you call it with the bird. Now, since you have a container ready, grab the rest of your giblets, even the little ones, and put those right in the container that you have handy. And set those giblets aside. Now let's rinse off this bag too, because again, we don't want to stink up the garbage. And now the bird and the neck are in the carafe. Again, using my elbow to turn off the sink. Okay, so like I said last time, the very fastest, easiest thing we can do from here is to stick a thermometer in it and put it in a 350-degree oven until it gets up to 165, and that's it. Delicious roast chicken. If you are utterly determined to go that route and do the fastest, easiest thing, then skip ahead to the chapter on placing the thermometer and go from there. But before you do, take a moment and start preheating your oven, like I said, to 350 degrees. If you're going to watch this video all the way through, don't turn on your oven yet. You see, since roasting a chicken is so very easy, I'm going to go ahead and show you a few really easy things you can do if you want to make the roastest with the mostest. We're going to brine it, stuff it, hat it, and pat it. Each one of those is super easy and each one will improve your chicken experience. You can do all 4 of those things, just one of those things, any 2 or 3 of those things. I know that each of these takes us a little farther away from fast and easy, so remember, they're all optional. And maybe you want to experiment with them. In fact, maybe your parents used to scold you and say, "Don't play with your food." Well, I'm here to tell you they were definitely wrong. You should play with your food. In fact, I think I'm going to make this the first video in a new playlist called Play With Your Food, where I'll show you some creative cooking ideas that aren't necessarily fast or easy or cheap. And as a reward for watching, I'm going to give away this basic knife set, the one that we used as a prop in our video on basic kitchen gear. So stay tuned to learn how. So the first thing on our list is also the thing that makes the biggest difference. In fact, I almost never cook chicken without brining it first. Brining adds flavor and moisture. It's like night and day. In fact, when I cut up and put away a whole bird like we did last week, as I pull those single servings out of the freezer, I always pour some salt water in the snap tops after they've mostly defrosted. You should brine for a minimum of 30 minutes, but I usually go overnight, if not a bit longer. Just remember, the longer you brine, the saltier the meat. The way brining works is that you let the chicken soak in salt water, that is to say, brine. As the chicken soaks, the water in the meat slowly gets replaced by the salt water through osmosis. So you're literally getting your seasoning inside the meat, and you're getting even moisture throughout the meat. Once you've tried this, you'll never go back. Now to make your brine, you just add a 1/4 cup of salt to a quart, or liter for you fancy metric types, of water. Dissolve it as best you can, and then pour it on top of the chicken. I found this snap top at TJ Marshall's, and it's just perfect. You might notice that there's a little brown spot on this bird. It's probably just a bruise. It's fine. You probably have some spots on you too. By the time I recorded this voiceover piece, I ate that thing days ago and I was fine. But just to cover myself, if you eat a brown spot and it makes you sick, that's your fault, not mine. So it's fine. It's not a problem. And if it is, that's on you. I'm going to need 2 liters for this one. I'm going to mix each liter as I go. So my second liter now goes on top of there. I like to give a little swirl to make sure I get all the straggler salt, that it all gets in there. I do like the bird back side up. That way the breast meat will get most of the salt water. Now it's ready to go in the fridge. Minimum 30 minutes, but 8 hours or so is probably fine. You might have to experiment with it until you get just the right amount of saltiness for your taste. Okay, now that the bird is brining and we have nothing better to do, let's make a stuffing. Now, I'm here to tell you to never use cornbread or sourdough or any kind of bread stuffing in a chicken or any other kind of bird. I mean, how does that stuff taste when you eat it? It's delicious, right? It's flavorful and moist. Where do you think that moisture and flavor came from? It came from the meat. Not only does it rob moisture and flavor from the meat, but it also creates a perfect environment for foodborne pathogens. So that's a hard nope for me. Less flavor, less moisture, possibility of getting sick. No, let's make a stuffing that actually adds flavor and moisture to the chicken. It's pretty easy, so let's go. First though, let's get our oven preheating, 500 degrees, although this one only goes up to 450, but that's fine. And yes, really, I know our lazy friends who are skipping over this part are setting their ovens to 350, but we're going as high as we can because, well, frankly, we're better than they are. Trust me, low and slow is not the way to cook poultry. For beef and lamb and pork, that's fine. But for poultry, you want to go high and fast because the longer that chicken sits in the oven, the drier it's going to get. I'm going to use some chopped onions, some chopped apple, garlic, and some herbs. If you don't know how to chop an onion, pay attention. Cut it in half and remove the outer layer. Now cut this half in half. Make a horizontal cut about halfway up. Now make a bunch of, kind of lateral cuts like this. Now as we make our, I'll call them longitudinal cuts. I'm just making this up. What we get is diced onion. Put that chopped onion in a mixing bowl. Now we're going to do the apple kind of similarly. I suggest you cut around the seeds. They're kind of bitter and they have trace amounts of cyanide in them. Not enough to kill you, but generally my advice on cyanide is that you should not eat it. For the garlic, I'm going to make a little choppy here. Make a little choppy here, careful. I'm going to separate all these cloves, roughly, and put them in a mason jar. Put a lid on that mason jar and shake, 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 shake. After we're done shaking, we have peeled garlic. Nice, huh? A few of these cloves need a second shaking, no big deal. Just pop them back in. These last few that didn't come off, no big deal. We'll just give those a little pop with our knife. It's a lot less tedious than going in there and peeling them all by hand, right? And even these, we're gonna give these a little pop too. That's going to help them release some of their oils. We don't have to chop these. Like I said, we're not eating this. This is just to get some flavor to infuse with the chicken. Now I'm going to add a little herbs, some rosemary, thyme, oregano, or whatever. That's totally up to you. Whatever floats your boat, whatever blows your skirt up, whatever affers your ism. And give it a little shake. And boom, stuffing, the safe and delicious kind. Now, thanks to video magic, our bird has been brining for a few hours. Let's be ready for it by putting just a little bit of oil on our roasting pan. Just a little. I usually brine my chicken for 8 to 10 hours. You can experiment with this. Play with your food. The longer it sits, the saltier it gets. Let's pull that chickie out, pour off the water, set it down, and pat it down with some paper towels. This is another optional but easy and highly impactful step. The more moisture we get off, the crisper the skin is going to be. The more water on the skin, the more soggy and flubbity the skin is going to be. Now let's get that stuffing in there, just any way you need to get it in. We're not going to eat this stuffing, so just get it in the bird. Now you don't have to do this. In fact, I didn't even list it as an optional step, but I do like to tie the legs together. Just, again, whatever it takes. You don't have to be fancy here. I like to tuck the wings underneath. It just keeps them kind of under control. We can clean up these miscellaneous bits of apple and onion. Next optional step is let's make a little tinfoil hat. Get a piece of tinfoil and make it a shape that fits across the breast like this. You might notice that when your bird is wearing this tinfoil hat, it starts believing in crazy talk. My favorite conspiracy theory is that birds aren't real, which is really weird coming from an actual bird, but like I said, chicken is real. But we don't have time for that nonsense, so for now, put the hat aside on something kind of cleanish. Alrighty then, the thermometer. Now some of our friends who skipped the extra steps are now returning to us. If that's you, then make sure to put a little oil on your roasting pan and then pop your chicken on it. Now different people have different ideas about thermometer placement because the bird is not going to cook evenly no matter what you do. If you want a bird to cook really evenly, then you should spatchcock or butterfly it. And if that's what you want to do, there are lots of fine creators here on YouTube who can show you how. Some people put the thermometer in the breast and some people put it in the armpit. Whichever you choose, make sure it's not touching bone or else you'll get a false read. And this is why I like having two thermometers. When this one says we're done, I'm going to check it with this one in some other spots. Today I'm going to go into the breast because that's the easiest one to show you. I can get the thermometer very deeply into the meat and it's easy to not hit bone. It's also worth knowing that the dark meat can go to a much higher temperature without getting dry. Don't plug in the thermometer yet. Put the chicken in the oven. Close the door. And now plug in your thermometer. If you skipped over the additional steps, this is it. Just wait for the chickadee to be done. If you made a tinfoil hat, set the timer for 20 minutes. And again, this step is only for the tinfoil hat crowd.
Okay, it's been about 20 minutes, so if you are a member of the tinfoil hat crowd, then now is the time to put that tinfoil hat on the bird. Lower the temperature of the oven to 350, which is now the same temperature as the people who skipped the optional steps. We are now all in the same boat. We're all on the same roasting pan. We are all now just one chicken, and we're going to wait for that chicken to reach 165 degrees. And thanks to Video Magic, we have now cooked our bird to an internal temperature of 165, which is safe for poultry. Now we need to check the temperature in a few places, but there's a bit of a catch-22. You see, the more holes we poke in it, the more juice we're going to lose. It's like that old saying, when the chicken we over-pronging, for the juice we shall be longing. You know that one, right? You've heard that before, right? Oh, what's this world coming to? All right, anyway, we're gonna strategically poke this chicken with our other thermometer just to make sure it's all cooked to at least 165. We've got about 177 over here. And over here looks like 184. But like I said, the dark meat can go a lot higher, so this is going to be fine. It won't be dry at all. Let's pull this chicken out. Don't take the probe out of the chicken yet, because we'll lose juice if we do that. But do unplug it from the thermometer body, so that'll make it a little easier to move around. It's a nice looking bird. It's just gorgeous. If we wanted a little more browning, which I usually do, we could have left it in the high setting for more like 25 or 30 minutes. The longer you keep it in there, then the browner the skin gets, but the more unevenly the chicken cooks. So you just have to play with your food, figure out what you like. Too many people skip the next step, but it's really important. Let your meat rest. I'm going to leave this for 15 minutes. Now, thanks to Video Magic, it's been 15 minutes. Now the juice has had a chance to get reabsorbed back into the meat, and we're ready to remove the thermometer slowly. Now, I like to wash it right away before it gets dry and crusty. I already washed the other one while you weren't looking because I figured it was just none of your business. Well, actually, no, it's very much your business, but I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, if you watched last week's video about cutting up a raw chicken, it's more or less the same with this bird. All the same parts are still pretty much there. I'm going to start by removing it from the roasting pan and putting it on a cutting board. If you have a cutting board that has a trough like this one, that's all the better because then the juices are going to have a place to go as we cut this up. Just like last week, we're going to start with incisions here that allow us to open up the joint. And this chicken is so tender, that leg is just practically falling off. All we have to do is just kind of clean it up. This delicious looking leg is now ready to eat. And just like last week again, I'm going to start with a horizontal cut here, or actually 2 horizontal cuts because I still haven't gotten around to sharpening my knife, followed by a vertical cut or 2. And this breast is now going to be ready to eat. Now notice all this steam coming off here. I'm going to let that chicken cool down a little bit while I enjoy my delicious, moist chicken. And Video Magic. I've had time to eat, the chicken's had time to cool down, and because I'm now well fed, everything else in this chicken is going to get cut up and put up. Get your snap tops or your containers ready and have their lids next to them so you can move quickly. Pop off the leg just like we did the last one. It just comes right off. Put that on a snap top and see, since we had our snap tops ready, that went really, really smoothly, right? Now we get ready for the breast on the other side. I'm going to start with a vertical cut this time, followed by a horizontal cut. And the skin, it's just begging me to eat it. And it's never going to be crispy again, so I'm going to dispose of that in my mouth. Yum, 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 yum. Okay, so now I'm going to get the rest of this breast off. And I'm going to pop that into another snap top, which is there conveniently waiting for me. Now, since I've got all the big pieces done, the rest of this I'm going to have to get with my fingers. But the bird is still a little bit too hot to handle for that, so let's get the wings. It's just like before. We pop the joint and then cut through. Same thing on the other side. Pop the joint and then cut through it. Now, if we want to, we can chop the tips off of these wings because there's not really enough to eat, but we can put those in our stock. Now, as far as the rest of the wing goes, I've really never found a tool as good at getting the meat off of these as my teeth. So I'm going to throw those delicious wings in a snap top. And now we can get to work on the chicken. Let's get the stuffing out of there and just ruthlessly go through there with our fingers and get all the meat off of there that we can. I'm doing it in fast motion because watching me do this would be tedious. It won't be tedious for you, of course, because you get to eat it. Yum, yum. Okay, so now we've got our carcass, which we can either put directly in our pressure cooker or slow cooker to make stock, or in this case, I'm going to put it in a container and make my stock tomorrow. But first I need to break it down into small pieces, which is easy to do because it's so tender, and it fits very easily and nicely right into that twist and lock container, and I will make my stock tomorrow. And of course, this needs to go to the fridge. And I need to wash my hands, and then I'm going to put away all my portions of chicken
And we're pretty much done, although we do still need to give away the magic phrase, which is chicken is real. Type chicken is real into the comments field and you will win this knife set. Now there's one thing we could have done. This stuff on the pan could have made a wonderful gravy. All that caramelized, delicious flavor on there, that's called fond, and I am fond of fond. But making the gravy, it's neither fast nor easy. In fact, it's a lot of work, but God, it's so good. So maybe if you'd like to see how to do that, give me a comment in the comments field and we'll do another episode on how to make a wonderful pan gravy from the fond that gets left over in the pan. Any way that you can come up with to get that flavor out of this pan and into your food is a good idea. But, like I said, that's going to be kind of a whole other video. And for now, it's time to wrap up this video. Thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you next time. Ciao.